Hi, it's Miss Lisa from St. Paris Public Library. Welcome back to our chapter book reading, My Big Fat Zombie Goldfish. This is night 3 of our chapter book reading, so we're going to get started in chapter 6. Dawn of the Zombie Toddler. I had to get back to Pradeep. He'd know what to do. Maybe they'd learned about hypnotizing little sisters in Cub Scouts. I grabbed Sammy's slimy, chocolatey hand and headed for the back door just as Pradeep's mom came back into the kitchen. "Oh, hello, Tom. I thought you and Pradeep were playing at your house. Isn't Pradeep with you?" Hi, Mrs. Kumar. Pradeep asked me to come and get Sammy, 'cause my mom said she could play with the new goldfish we got. I mumbled, "Is that okay?" "Swishy little fishy," Sammy said again. "Tell your mom that's fine, but Pradeep should bring Sammy back in half an hour for dinner. Would you like to come as well? I can—" "Okay," I blurted out, pulling Sammy by the hand. Pradeep's mom was still talking as we ran out the door and around the back of my house. I pushed Sammy through the dog flap into the kitchen door, escape route number 14, and then squeezed through myself. Sammy was still doing the freaky goldfish stare thing, and I knew I had to get Frankie back up the stairs and into his bowl with clean green water, or Mark would completely kill me. I peeked around the corner into the living room, but Mark and Pradeep were gone. Then I heard Mark's mumbling voice upstairs. Frankie started thrashing around in the water like mad at the sound of Mark's voice, and I swear his eyes started glowing more than ever. I quickly pushed Sammy and Frankie back into the kitchen. "Just wait here," I said, "and remember, shh." Sammy put a chocolatey finger to her lips as she held the bag in the other hand, like a baby doll. "Shh," she said. "Okay. I know that it might seem strange to leave my friend's hypnotized little sister alone with the zombie fish that hypnotized her, but I don't know how to explain it. I just kind of knew she wouldn't be in danger with Frankie. I also knew that even back when my brother was mostly evil, Pradeep would totally be in danger with Mark. Zombie goldfish are like code blue in jelly bean terms, but evil scientist big brothers are definitely code red. I snuck upstairs and slowly peered around the corner into Mark's room. Pradeep was on the floor. Oh no, I was too late. I could see his feet, but not his body or his head, because Mark's desk was in the way. Pradeep wasn't moving at all. Mark must have knocked him out. He'd gone completely evil now. The millipedes in my stomach were having a squirming party. Mark stood in front of Pradeep and looked at the goldfish bowl. "Fine," he said. "If you won't tell me where my experiment is, then you won't say nothing at all." Then I saw Pradeep's foot wiggle and heard him trying to talk. Thanks," he mumbled. He sounded like he did the day we had the green cupcake eating contest at his mom's, and he was trying to say, "No more cupcakes, please," with a mouth completely squashed full of cupcakes. "Shut up," Mark said, and kicked Pradeep's foot as he went out towards the bathroom. "I'm going to put some more water in the fish bowl. Stay put, moron." I ran into my room so Mark wouldn't see me. Then I heard him turn on the tap on the bathroom sink. I jumped up and tiptoed back to the doorway of Mark's room. I had to get Pradeep's attention to check he was okay, so I made our secret "I need to get your attention to check you're okay" call, which is a cross between a snake hiss and a dolphin click. Pradeep sat up as soon as he heard. He shuffled forward from behind the desk. His arms were stuck behind his back. Then I saw his face. His mouth was completely taped up with scotch tape from ear to ear in one direction and right down his nose to his chin in the other. Just his nostrils were tape free. He even had little crossway bits of tape going around across his cheeks and jaw. That's gotta hurt. I guess maybe telling Mark about what's in a crocodile's stomach wasn't such a great idea after all. I gave him the thumbs up sign and held up the little bottle of green coloring for him to see. I think Pradeep smiled a little then, but it was pretty hard to tell for sure with all the tape that Pradeep shook his head really hard. That's when I felt the thwack in the back of my head, and I saw the carpet in Mark's room come up to meet my face. Chapter 7. A Classic Evil Scientist Trap. While my face was kissing the carpet, Mark pulled my arms back behind me and tied them together. Everything seemed a bit hazy after that, but he must have dragged me over to where Pradeep was sitting and put us back to back. Then he piled up some comics and stuff next to us, and there was a shadow of something over our heads. Next thing I knew, he was tying us together with the belt from his white coat, a classic evil scientist move. Man, he is one mean brother. Something dripped onto my face. It smelled disgusting. Pradeep, what is that? I asked as I wiped my chin on my shoulder. Moxic, monkey, mater, malice, meads, Pradeep mumbled. I looked up to see the goldfish bowl sitting on a wobbly tray balanced between two towers of comic books. Water was sloshing out of the bowl with every little move we made. Mark's got the fish bowl filled to the top with the toxic, gunky water balanced over our heads, I said, translating Pradeep's cupcake talk. How do you do that, moron? Mark interrupted. No, shut up. Don't tell me that. Tell me where the fish is. He leaned in so his face was right up against mine. I should have said something really cool like, I guess they don't make evil scientists breath fresheners then. But instead, I just stared back at Mark, trying really hard to ignore the millipede feeling all over my body. Still, I didn't tell him where Frankie was. Fine, Mark stood up. Morons, prepare to be gunked. Then I heard a quiet voice say, Swishy little fishy. Sammy was standing at the door of Mark's room with Frankie in the bag in her arms. His eyes were bright green and his tail was thrashing wildly. He was staring right at Mark. Sammy was looking mega goldfish starey. Little moron, Mark said. Hey, she's staring up my nose and at the wall. It's freaking me out. Make her stop. It's the fish, I said. He's hypnotized her and he can do it to you. Pradeep mumbled, Mama, my sister. Yeah, sorry, I was going to tell you when, thwack, you know, I said. Mark bent over to look more closely at the fish in the bag. Frankie's eyes glowed, and Mark was starting to look a bit goldfish starey himself, when he suddenly took a pair of protective science experiment goggles out of his evil scientist coat pocket and put them on. I had no idea evil scientists had so many accessories. Like that's gonna work on me, he snorted. Cool, the fish has come back with evil powers. He's not evil, I shouted. Toxic, chemicals, battery, powers, Pradeep said. I guess the combination of toxic chemicals and the battery shock must have given him special powers. Pradeep, yes, I said. Can you stop doing that? Mark stomped his foot. I already figured that out. I'm the evil scientist here, not your moron friend. Does he have a white coat? No. Is he even evil? No. So shut it. That was the most words Mark had ever said to me in his entire life. Mark paced in front of us with his hands stuffed in the pockets of his coat for a minute. Then he stopped and looked at Frankie. Okay, fish, now you're my zombie goldfish. Just think of all the people we can hypnotize. Frankie thrashed his tail, and suddenly Sammy lunged at Mark. She dropped the bag and tried to attack him. As much as a 3-year-old dressed in a mermaid's suit flailing around can be called an attack, Swishy little fishy, she squealed. Mark just picked Sammy up and wedged her bottom first into his Star Wars waste paper basket. Her mermaid tail flapped helplessly against Chewbacca's face as she struggled to get free. But instead of screaming the house down, she just stared the fishy stare. Wow, Sammy was really zombied out. You need better minions, friend, Mark said as he picked up the bag from the floor. Now, let's see if we can make the whole school into fish zombies. You won't get away with it, Mark, I said, pulling at the white belt tying Pradeep and me together. You may be an evil scientist, but you're still only 12. Mom will be home soon, and she won't let you hypnotize the school or toxic gunk us or take Frankie anywhere. Just at that moment, Mark's phone rang. Hi, Mom. No, Tom's fine. He's playing with his moron friend and his moron sister. Mark stopped to listen. Okay, his little friend and his little sister. No, you stay and have coffee with your friend. Then he paused again. Oh, sorry. No, Tom can't come to the phone right now. He and Pradeep are kind of tied up. Mark covered the phone with his hand. Mwahaha, he laughed. Mark was getting way too comfortable with this new evil laughing thing. Then he spoke again. I'm fine. I'm just finishing my science homework. Chapter 8, The Great Escape. He hung up the phone and went to put it in his pocket. As he did, Frankie twisted and shook free from Mark's grasp. The bag landed on the carpet and Frankie started to roll for the door. Yes, Frankie was escaping. Mark walked over to Pradeep and me and tapped the goldfish bowl above our heads. Fish, he called. Say goodbye to the morons. Frankie paused and looked back at us. Go, Frankie, I shouted. Get away now. I felt Pradeep's body go all tense as he prepared for the gunge to hit us, but the glow in Frankie's eyes faded as he looked at me. I shook my head and mouthed the words, Frankie, go. But Frankie stopped thrashing in his bag and stayed still. Good choice, Fish. Mark walked over and scooped the bag up. Remember, if you won't help me, then it's flush time for you. No, I shouted. Meow, Pradeep moaned. Fishy, Sammy squealed and held out her hands. Now, let's get ready to hypnotize Mom when she gets back, Mark said as he strode out of the room, clenching Frankie's bag tight in his fist. Mark slammed the door. We looked up to see the bowl balancing above our heads, rocking back and forth. It was going to fall. I felt Pradeep trying to reach up to grab the belt in the knot in the belt around us, but his wrists were tied too tight. The bowl wobbled more with every move we made. Green, slimy water dripped on the back of my neck. Pradeep stretched his fingers as far as he could, but it wasn't enough. I squashed closer to him to try to give the belt some slack so he could reach. Merely mon it, he said as his fingers pulled at the knot behind his back. Yes, he loosened the knot and felt the belt drop away. Roll, I shouted as we both rolled in opposite directions just as the goldfish bowl slammed onto the carpet between us, spilling toxic water across the floor. I ran over to Pradeep and pulled the tape off his mouth, leaving sticky pink stripes across his face. Thanks, Pradeep. How did you do that? I asked as I pulled the last loop of belt off my wrist. We did knots at Cubs last week. That was a quarter moon's noose. Not too tricky to undo if you know how, he answered. Then we went to help Sammy out of the trash can. She hugged Pradeep around the neck as I eased Chewbacca off her bottom. Now to get Frankie, I shouted. That's when we heard it, a sound that I never found terrifying until that day. We heard a fatal flush.